To Simply Sweet and Savory. My name is Natasha, and I am going to be going over some of my favorite recipes to share with you guys. Now, some of my recipes will go from basic, very beginner, to almost intermediate, and some professional. But don't worry, I'm going to break down all the recipes step by step so that everybody can follow along at the same pace. Today, we're actually going to be making cinnamon rolls, very ooey gooey cinnamon rolls. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and let's get started. So when you start, you want to make sure that you have everything scaled out so that you don't have to run back and forth to find any ingredients. Just make sure you have enough little bowls that you have everything scaled out and in place. Okay, so I've measured out all of our ingredients, and this is for the first part. This is for the dough of the cinnamon roll. So in our bowl, we have our bread flour, which is 4.5 cups. We have a half cup of granulated white sugar and 1 teaspoon of salt. Here we have 1 cup of whole milk, 2 whole large eggs, and 1/3 cup of melted butter, and also our active dry yeast. You just need 1 packet. With our milk needs to be warm or room temperature, and the eggs need to be room temperature as well. So you don't want to add anything mixing together too cold, because it will actually just take a longer time for the bread to rise. So if everything's room temperature, everything's going to move a bit quicker. So with our milk, I like to take it to about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to stick my little thermometer in there. See if you guys can see that. It says 91 degrees. So that's perfect temperature. With that temperature, you want to add your yeast to the milk. And normally you can, when you're comfortable with this, you can just kind of throw everything in together. But if you're first starting out, yeast is just kind of weird, and it's active and it needs sugar in order to start to develop. So there's plenty of sugar in milk. So you can just sprinkle it right on top of your milk and then stir it in. And then what you want to do just to see if your yeast is active, because sometimes you can just get a bad batch of yeast, and then this will be all for nothing. So you want to add your yeast to the milk, stir it up, and then wait about 10-15 minutes and wait until you start to see bubbles form. If you start to see it to bubble, then that means it's beautiful active yeast, and you can go ahead with your recipe. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so now I'm going to add my yeast to the milk. Pour that in there like that. You can just take a little spoon and just give it a quick stir. Try to get all of it off the spoon. Now you see how it looks now. It's just all kind of clumped together, but we're going to come back in about 15 minutes and we will see that if our yeast is good yeast, if it starts to mix together and get smooth, or it starts to bubble. If we don't see those little chunks gathering at the top anymore, then that means it is active. Okay, so after 10 minutes, you can see that the yeast is starting to bubble and it's starting to spread out a little bit. So that means we've got good yeast. So I'm going to go ahead and start to add all my ingredients to our mixing bowl. But now first I'm going to stir this up, because a lot of it is on the bottom right now. So I'm just going to give it a quick stir to get everything off the bottom so that I don't leave anything in our measuring cup. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and add this to our dry ingredients. Got the milk and the yeast. We've got our butter. It's a little solid but it's still soft. It doesn't have to be completely melted. It just needs to be really soft so that the machine doesn't have to struggle to break it up and it's not cooling down your ingredients. So it's room temperature at this point. Now we're going to add in our eggs. Okay, 2 whole eggs going in. And then we're going to add on our dough hook attachment. Looks kind of weird, but it gets the job done. It's better than having to do it by hand. So you put the lid down, make sure it's locked in. And as far as speed, you want to go to about, to start, just to get everything mixed, you want to go to stir or 2. So we'll see first with stir, what happens with stir. Stir, we'll keep it on stir because that'll get all the ingredients together, bound together. And then from there, once it becomes like a ball of dough, then we can speed up the mixer. But as you can see, that hook just kind of goes around and grabs everything and mixes everything all nice and easily. Okay, as it's mixing, you're going to see that it starts to pull away from the bowl, and that's a good thing. So it's going to keep mixing and mixing till literally this bowl will be pretty clean because it's going to pull all that dough from the sides. And it's just going to keep mixing here. And the next step I'm going to show you is how to tell when your dough is ready. But this is going to mix for about 10 minutes, maybe less than that, depends. We're probably going to speed up a little bit here so that the dough starts to form properly. Now with forming dough, what forms dough and makes it keep its shape is what's called gluten. And gluten is only in wheat flour. So gluten gives bread its structure. And what we're trying to do is form more gluten right now while it's mixing. And as it mixes, it forms more and more gluten. So we're gonna let this mix for a while till it becomes a nice, smooth, shiny dough. Because as you can see right now, it's really lumpy. But by the time this dough stops, it's gonna be nice and smooth. And then I'll show you exactly how you can tell, besides the smoothness, like actually showing you how you can tell this dough is actually finished. Okay, I took it up to speed 4 because we were at stir at first just to get everything combined, and now we're going to take it up to 4, and that's going to help it form gluten properly and have a really nice shine and structure. Sounds a little crazy in the bowl, it's kind of rattling, but that's normal. Don't be scared, that's what's supposed to happen. Okay, so this has been mixing for about 10 minutes. I took it all the way up to 4, and I just took it down to 2 so you can see the difference. Remember how it wasn't really like a lot of lumps and stuff was in the dough, but now it's really smooth and it's picked up everything off the sides. So let's just look at it here. See if you guys can see the shine. But it's kind of shiny there. We may need to go a little bit longer, so I'm going to show you how to tell whether or not your dough is ready. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you can tell whether or not your dough is ready. So you're going to take a little piece of the dough. Feels pretty good. Your dough shouldn't be too warm because then that means your dough has the possibility of overproofing. So you want to just take like a little piece like this, and then you will take it and just slowly stretch it, stretch it, stretch it. And you should be able to stretch this all the way so you can almost see through it without ripping a hole in it. So if you can pull this apart without ripping it, then that means your dough is ready. So as you can see, I can pull this all the way. You can almost see through it, and it hasn't ripped yet. So that means that this is a perfect amount of gluten formed into the bread. So that means it's going to have a really nice strong structure to make our cinnamon rolls with. So we're just going to put some oil in this same bowl. You don't have to switch bowls. What we're going to do is just take this bowl and add oil to it. And we're going to let this sit and proof for about an hour. It's going to double in size. And then we're going to go with our next step. Okay, so I took some vegetable oil, just 1.5 tablespoons, and I poured that in the bottom, and then I just took the dough and rolled it around in the oil. And so it's completely covered in that oil so that it doesn't stick to the bowl as it starts to rise. So we're going to cover this with plastic wrap, or you can cover it with a wet towel or a dry towel, but it just needs to be in a nice warm area, or you can just sit it on the countertop, but it shouldn't be in the cold and it shouldn't be too hot. So don't ever put it in the oven, in a hot oven or anything like that. Just keep it in a nice warm area. And let's say you just got done cooking something and that area is still warm. That's a really nice place to keep it next to the stove, but the oven or stove shouldn't be over like 120 degrees. Because you want this to rise nice and evenly. And if it rises too much or too quickly, the yeast is going to die. And then your dough is going to deflate, and you'll have done all this work for nothing, and we don't want that. So if it's too cold, it's going to take forever to rise. So we're looking right now, we want this to rise in about an hour. So we're going to come back in an hour and see where we are with our dough. So I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap, and we will come right back. Okay, so it's been about an hour now, and as you can see, it's gotten a lot bigger. It's doubled in size. So from here, we're going to start the rollout process. We're going to roll it out, and we're going to start to fill with our filling. Okay, so now we're going to start rolling out our dough. So I'm going to show you the dough here. And so what we're going to do is smash it down, and then we're going to start rolling it out. You want to make sure you have a nice clean surface like this. We're going to need a nice size rolling pin, spatula, and a baby offset spatula. We're also going to need some extra flour for the board. And we have our mixture, which we're going to put inside. This is a mixture of brown sugar, cinnamon, a little nutmeg, and some vanilla extract. So it's all up to you. That's about 1.5 cups of brown sugar, dark brown sugar. And then I put about 1.5 tablespoons of cinnamon and maybe about 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. You don't want too much nutmeg. It gets really strong if you put too much in there. You just want a little hint in the background. I don't put a lot of cinnamon in. Some people like a lot of cinnamon where it kind of gets caked up in there, and I don't really like that. So I just put 1.5 tablespoons, and that gives you a nice flavor of cinnamon, but not like punch you in the face with too much cinnamon. So we're going to start rolling our bread out. Okay, I hope this is a good angle for everybody. So what I'm going to do now is take my flour and just sprinkle it on the surface. Not too much, just enough. And then just take your hand and spread it out. Make sure all of your countertops are nice and clean. You don't want to make a mistake and have any debris or any excess like spices from something else on your countertop, because that's going to get in your food. You always want to work clean. So take some extra flour for your hands. Don't be afraid to get a little messy. And then we're just going to go in the bowl. Because we put the oil in the bowl, the bread's not going to stick. And we're just going to take it out like this. And this is our dough. And we're just going to smash it down into the flour. Roll it over. Just kind of move it around. Really get it in there. And now we're going to roll our bread out. So we'll take a little extra, because there's some, oil on the top. So we're going to take some and just press it out. And now we're going to take our roller. And and just roll the dough out. You want to try to get it in like a rectangle, so you can take it and get it long this way away from you, and then add a little more flour to the top, and then we're gonna turn this so now the long way is this way, and we'll just spread it out a little more. And you have to be patient with dough. You don't want to overwork it. The more you work it, the more gluten that's going to form, and it's going to keep shrinking and tightening up on you. So you want to work fast but gentle with dough. It's very temperamental. So we're just going to keep rolling. So the longer you make it, the more portions you can get out of it. I want to try to get at least 12 out of this dough. I think this is pretty good. Make sure. Okay, I like the way that looks. It's nice and even. There are no like really big lumpy areas. Everything's about the same level. So now we're gonna put butter first. So we have a stick of butter here, unsalted. You can use salted at this point because this is really for flavor. It's not gonna affect the bread anyway. So if you want to use salted, give it an added amount of flavor, you can do that. But I just like to use unsalted. So you just take it, make sure it's softened. You don't want to use hard butter. You can also use melted, but I just feel like melted gets a little too messy. So I just like to use it nice and softened. So I just take my offset and then I just spread my butter, kind of like you're buttering bread. Just spread it all over. Just like this. Make sure it's even. One stick should be enough. I mean, if you love butter, like, feel free, but we'll try to make it with this one stick. Spread it nice and evenly. And if you don't have a baby spatula like this, you can use a regular spatula, like a rubber spatula like this, or you can use a spoon, a knife, a butter knife, whatever you have. Use your fingers, put a glove on, and just rub your hands across it. Whatever works for you. It doesn't have to be this tool. So after that, butter is nice and smooth here. Now we're going to take our brown sugar, cinnamon, and vanilla mix, and we're just going to shake it all over. And then you can take this same spatula and then just spread it around until it's coating the entire thing. These are going to be so good. And don't worry if you have like chunks of brown sugar. That's okay. As it bakes, they're just going to melt down and they will not be there anymore. So make sure you get it all the way to the edge, because you want sugar and cinnamon in every bite. Okay. Now at this point, we're going to roll it up. So start from the furthest away from you and then fold it over and then just keep rolling towards you. Flatten and roll towards you. Make sure it's nice and tight. Here we're coming in the frame here, so you roll and pull away from you. Roll towards you and pull away from you. Roll towards you, pull away. That's making it tight so you don't have any loose air pockets. Just roll it, roll towards you, pull away. Roll towards you and pull away. Roll and pull away. Roll, pull away. Roll, pull away. Roll, pull away. All right. Then at this point, just shape it until it's all kind of the same. You don't have any areas that are bigger than others. Roll it, roll it, roll it. You can see you have a nice solid roll. And after this, we're going to slice. So you want to prepare your pan. You want to make sure you have a big enough pan where your cinnamon rolls, before they begin to proof, are not touching each other yet. So you don't really want to stack them into a pan while they still need to proof. Because if you do that, once they proof, they're going to be smushed up against each other, and when it's time to bake, they're going to grow even more. And then, you run the risk of them not cooking through the middle, so they're raw in the middle but overcooked on the outside. So you want to give them enough space to breathe and bake and be beautiful cinnamon rolls. So I'll show you how I put all these cinnamon rolls in this pan, and they will still have space in between them so that they can spread and grow. Okay, for slicing the cinnamon rolls, you want to use a serrated edge knife. It's way easier to cut with a serrated edge knife than a regular chef's knife, because you're going to have to press so hard to get through it with the smooth edge. With the serrated edge, you can gently cut through without smashing and messing up the product, because you don't want to knock out any excess air out of the dough. So first we're going to score this so we can get 12 pieces. We're going to score it so that they're all pretty even. So we're going to go through the middle, and then we're going to cut the halves into half. So we got a half here and half there. So each quarter we're going to cut into 3 pieces, so that way we know we'll have 12 even rolls. So 1, 2, 3 there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So from here, we're going to just start slicing and setting them into the pan. I'll show you guys that. See how nice and beautiful that is. And just ease your knife through. You don't have to press. If you have a serrated edge, you can just, all you have to do is the sawing motion. You don't have to press down. It'll slice right through. Nice swirl. These are going to be beautiful. hope you guys are doing well through quarantine. I'm here in Orlando. We're doing our best here, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it is pretty rough. But I'm glad I can bake with you guys. You guys can learn from me. If you guys have any recipes or any questions, please feel free to drop a comment down below, and I will absolutely get back to you, respond to you as soon as possible. Hey, I'm not doing anything. Let me show you guys this. You can see I've given enough space, as these have to sit in proof. The yeast needs to start growing, spreading out. So another hour, proof again, and then once they've nice beautiful size, in the oven and bake them. So it's gonna, time this is ready, these will actually be touching. Once we bake them, they will have grown so much. Can't have ooey gooey cinnamon rolls without some delicious cream cheese frosting. So that's what we're going to make now. So as you see, I have all my ingredients here. We have our cream cheese. Hold on. Here we have our cream cheese, which is an 8-ounce pack of cream cheese, 1 stick of butter, and then we're going to add some vanilla extract for extra flavor, a little bit of salt to cut the sweet, because everything's so sweet on sweet. We're going to add just a touch of salt in there, and we also have our powdered sugar, so we're going to add about 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, but we're going to taste as we go just to make sure it's the right flavor. So first we're going to add in our cream cheese. Now the cream cheese is fresh out of the refrigerator, so it's nice and cold. When you're mixing any sort of frosting, you want to put the whatever you're adding to it. If it's shortening and butter, you need to add the item that is the hardest. So the cream cheese is really hard. This butter has been sitting out, so it's room temperature. It's super soft. So we're going to cream this first, which is, we're going to use our paddle. And then we're just going to let this mix and break up a little bit. And we're going to add our powdered sugar to this. And here we have our cream cheese, and I added in the powdered sugar. So I added in 1.5 cups of powdered sugar so far. So we're going to let this go and let it cream until it all comes together, and then at that point we will drop in our stick of butter. So as you can see, it is nice and smooth now. All the powdered sugar is completely mixed in with the cream cheese. So at this point now, we can add our butter. Go ahead and lift this. I'm just going to take our butter here and just drop that right in. All right. Now we're going to start again, lock it in, and let that go. Let that mix in nicely. So vanilla, honestly, I never really measure my vanilla because I love vanilla so much. But if you want to be specific, you can put in a half of a tablespoon. But for me, I just pour it in until I'm excited. Oop, beautiful. Let that mix in. And then I'm going to add less than half a teaspoon of salt. This is just going to cut how sweet the entire dish is, because we haven't added salt anywhere except into the dough. You're not really going to taste that at all. So there's a lot of brown sugar, vanilla, and the sugary topping. So we want to cut it with a little bit of salt just to balance it out. So we're just going to let this mix for about a minute just so everything is incorporated and so that salt dissolves completely throughout the icing. And we're just going to put this away and wait on our cinnamon rolls to get done. Oh boy, so as you can see, our cinnamon rolls have been proofing for about an hour now. And so you can see how they've risen now. Before they weren't touching at all, but now you can see there's some of them starting to touch a little bit. So that means they're starting to proof, starting to rise really, really nicely. And these are actually ready to go in the oven now. So we're going to put these in the oven, middle rack at 350 degrees. And we're just going to start with 10 to 15 minutes and then we'll check and see if it's done yet, but we're going to start with 10 to 15 minutes. It's been 15 minutes, so we're going to check our cinnamon rolls. It smells so good. I wish you guys could smell it and see how it looks. Not ready just yet, but look how beautiful those are rising. They look amazing. So we're going to give this like 5 more minutes and come back again and check. So I just pulled these out of the oven. I gave it 5 more minutes because earlier we put it in for 15 and it wasn't quite ready yet. I gave it 5 more minutes, but as you can see now, it's perfect. They're beautiful, nicely golden brown. Those tops are nice and high. And if you want to make sure they're done before you actually take them out, just press on them a little bit. And if it bounces back like that, then that means that it's done in the center. It's not going to be raw. So yeah, these smell so good. I wish you guys could smell them. Wish at some point someone comes up with smell-o-vision, because you guys need to smell this cinnamon and brown sugar right now. So what we're going to do now is put the icing on. So we've got our cream cheese icing that we made earlier. And we're just going to put dollops of this all over the top and just spread it out and just enjoy the show. Just a little on each one at first. And these are right out of the oven, so it's going to melt and like melt into all those little crevices. It's going to be great. Just spread it out. Need more. We made plenty, so just really get it on there. These are gonna be so good. There's really nothing better than like homemade baked goods. Because you can go to a grocery store and get a cinnamon roll or something like that, but it's just nothing better than being able to bake it at home. It just tastes so much nicer, cleaner, and you know all the ingredients. You don't have to worry about all of these fake ingredients. You don't understand. You don't put in it how they made it. Now you can control your fats, your sugars. So, like me, give it nothing. If you mess up, you can always to judge you. And if it is, they aren't allowed to have any. But yeah, look how delicious. So yeah, guys, this is how cinnamon rolls. These are gonna be amazing. Just let that ice soak into it. Be just perfect. Just a little dinner. So enjoyed this video so much for watching. Any questions or you want to see me make and how to make it, please a message down and I will definitely get back. So much for watching this video. Also, if you like this video, please do me a favor and like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Thank you so much. Bye.